call the special utilities meeting of March 22nd to order. We ask Mr. Valentine to please lead us in prayer, following the pledge.
Father, we thank you for this day, Lord. We thank you for the many blessings you've bestowed upon us. Continue to do that, Father. We ask for the mindset of us tonight, Lord, that we do business to benefit your people, Father, and we pray a special blessing on all here tonight. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Turn it off, Parker. Let the record show that Mr. Dempsey Lambert is absent. Move to public comments. Anyone wishing to speak, please sign in with the secretary. Number 3, East Side Utilities District, Councilman George Valentine.
Thank you, Chairman Berger. The email, Ms. Fontenot, her and I discussed something this afternoon, and she got an email from one of our attorneys, Jeff Diaz, who's working on the franchise agreement. And I think Parish President has a copy of this, and thank you, Parish President, for attending the meeting. And Paul Keller, because we had requested Mr. Paul. Mr. Paul, you had discussed with us, Mr. Savoy and myself, and talked about establishing a utilities district. That would be one thing that we could do, I guess, to enhance our abilities to gain water rights and/or complete a franchise agreement. That's just, we'll speak bluntly on that.
Yeah.
I don't know if you, maybe if I can, I'll give you a copy of this email also. But Mr. Diaz alludes to the development of a franchise, a utilities district on the east side in his letter about the franchise agreement.
I did talk to him about that
Okay.
one time, too. I just thought it would be an ideal opportunity for you to enhance your position of what, regardless of what you would do after that.
Right.
It would put you in a position that you would be dealing with it's something that would be part of the government, and that not sitting out as an independent commission or anything like that, but it would give the council an opportunity to have control of a district that would fall under the parish government, that could do anything from water to sewage,
Right.
to even land management, as far as that, through the utility system. And some of the things that I think it would also put you in a better position when you start talking about consolidating your various sewer districts, and especially if you go to a parish-wide sewer system, you're going to have to do some consolidation, so that would put you in a better position for that. My personal belief is the sooner you get away from a scattered system and get into a self-contained system, the better off you're going to be.
Right.
And I had run that by Mr. Diaz. In fact, we talked about it twice. Once I think he was with Ms. Fontenot when they were walking out of a meeting, and we talked again about it on the porch of the office.
And I guess it coincides with what the parish president he had in the state of the parish address as far as concerning the expropriation of Ascension water. And of course, the council passed a resolution and pretty much gave the go-to, I think Chairman Savoy did, for our parish president to discuss with this and formulate the bills. And that's what primarily, did you have a chance, Parish President, to read this email from Jeff? Okay. And what he's saying this for an informative situation is that the fact that our legislation, our legislative group, it has the number of bills that they have already put in for approve, and that and Mr. Quizares is a little misleading because I think he's the chairman of the Transportation Committee, and he also files those bills. So he's filed like 28 bills, and I know that's included. Representative Lambert's filed 14. Senator Amadei has filed 6, and Representative Smiley has only filed 4. So if obviously the 5 bills doesn't hold true, but we still do. Representative Smiley seems to be the person that may want to file a bill dealing with this on the House side, and I'm not sure what's the best way. But Parish President, can you inform us of whether or not you've had some discussion with any of the legislative group?
We've had some discussion. I've sent them all a letter asking if they're willing to do this. We're still waiting to get the written copy of the resolution from Ricky, because remember, George, we didn't have a copy of it. And so as of today, I have not seen the resolution from our attorney's office.
Right.
Now, I think maybe some of the confusion here, this is probably pre-filed bills. And see, pre-filed, they don't have that limitation. Once they have a pre-filed date for bills was last Friday at 5, I think. Each of them will have 5 now. Once the session begins, they can actually do for local option and other things during the session.
Well,
so,
I know there was some misunderstanding, because some people questioned me about that they couldn't believe all they can file is 5 bills. And
that's once the pre-filing period is passed. So,
that's
like
correct.
one that filed 28 pre-file, yes, they can. I don't think they've even set a limit on themselves pre-file.
What I'm going to do is I'm going to let you go ahead and certainly look at this letter. But what our attorney is saying, that we really can just plagiarize somebody else's, because this has been done. There's no sense in recreating something that's already been done.
Don't
These
reinvent
types
the
of
wheel.
bills have already been done, and that our legislators all have staff, and that's what their job is, to do this. So I would hope that one of our legislators would contact you as soon as possible, and that they would certainly put their staff on trying to draw up something. And the reason why I put the utility district, I think that's one of the things we really need to have put forth first, along with whether if the council did pass resolution, the parish president is the one that put that in motion as far as expropriating the water company. So I mean, I don't know exactly what that bill would entail, but I do think that we need to pursue the utilities district for the east side. Very important, because it does, like Mr. Keller say, will help us with sewage and other situations on this side.
Yes, Mr. Shakespeare?
Well, and Paul, maybe you can answer this. What is the difference would be to file for East Side Utilities District and what we currently have on the west side with ACUD, which is a consolidated utilities district that's already set?
That's why, when I first started, when I talked to several of you about it at first, I did not realize that you had a west side district already set up. And the effect of it on the west side would be very little compared to the east side, because on the west side, the majority of your territories that has utility are within Donaldsonville proper, that are not part of the district, what I'm saying, no.
No, the west side utilities district is areas outside of the city of Donaldsonville.
That's why I say it's outside of that,
Right.
but Donaldsonville occupies most of the utility service of the west side. That service is larger than the district, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And in fact, I know because part of that district gets water from St. James
Right.
Parish Utilities. And in fact, comes all the way from the parish line to where the levee board used to have their shops. I think that's only something that your lawyers are going to be able to interpret for you, because you would have a right, if you want to absorb that district into a parish-wide utility system. But that's something you have to
Well,
talk to
and
your
I was
lawyers.
just taking it from the standpoint of we've established a utilities district on the West Bank, and it's been good from the standpoint of it gives us the right to consolidate when we get right-of-way. It's a utilities right-of-way, so you get right-of-way for water, sewer, and gas immediately.
Very
and-
much, because
and
I
it's-
know when we we had to bring those lines into Ascension, and the district was able to do that under their authority a lot quicker than if you would have started an individual negotiation process
Right.
down the line. The big thing about the districts in my concept is that they must be controlled by the council, period. I mean, that's a must in my book.
I agree.
Especially
Anything
when
else?
you're going to start talking about expropriation.
Yeah, that's right. But you got to have something to expropriate too. That's why I say it's probably the district. And that's why it's the east side. And Mr. Checksnine brings up a good point. The west side is already taking care of that. Essentially, they have that vehicle already. So essentially this would be a vehicle to bring that into being on this side. Gives us a little bit more muscle.
As Utilities Committee, do y'all want to ask our attorneys to possibly draft an ordinance?
Well, yeah, I mean, I would move that, and we'll need to take it to the council, but I mean, I would move that we would bring this to the council for approval on establishing an east side utilities district. But in doing that, I would hope that the parish president, along with the expropriation, would urge our legislators to try to file a bill. You know, just because the bill gets filed, I don't mean if we don't agree with it, the council don't agree, we can do that. But you need to file the bill. You need to get that done.
I'll second it.
So that was a motion by Mr. Valentine, second by Ms. Fontenot, to send it to full council creation of the East Side Utilities District. Any objection? Any discussion? Any further discussion? Any objection?
Mr. Berger, if whoever you have to work on, if you want language for districts, I would be very happy to work with them.
Yes, sir.
And help
Thank
them
you.
because, like I said, I've been involved in quite a few of them, so.
I'm sure it'll be Mr. Diven that'll handle that end of it.
Yeah.
Okay, number 4 is the update from the parish president, which we've already covered through item number 3, unless you have anything else to elaborate on.
Any other question for me? That's why I'm here to ask him. And I think you and I, when we met yesterday, Jared, we talked about it looks like the 1/8 inch sales tax, even if we take it from the existing undedicated tax, will generate a couple $1 million, and it looks like that our revenue going into that undedicated fund will not be hurt because of the increase in sales taxes that's taking place. So as you and I discussed yesterday, we have to project that out a few years now because we have no guarantees. But with the present rate of the last few months, we would probably not lose any revenue. And we still have to be sure and look at all the details. But based on revenues in the past, because taxes are going up for the first time in 2 or 3 years, we may actually have a situation where the 1/8 of the whole will still give the 7/8 what it was in the past, the whole 1 cent, if you follow what I'm talking about. So that looks very promising, and what that would do, and I met with 2 other members of the council today for over an hour each as we have in our one-on-ones just talking about these things. It would give us money, so if a STAG grant opportunity comes available, say that members of Congress say we got $5 million, well, to get that $5 million, a STAG grant requires a 45% match. So we got to have $2.45 million to get that 5. And obviously, we have no funds with those kind of monies in it now. Even a Section 219 grant with the Corps requires a 25% match. And so EPA, the Corps, and we have some chances now with depending on how the Louisiana Recovery Authority and the legislature plays out this session, with some of the hurricane emergency appropriations for infrastructure. So if we can show that some of let's say our major bayous or our interior canals have had some increased pollution problems due to the storm, we can apply for some community development block grants to some of these billions coming down for infrastructure. So much of it would be set aside, it looks like, for housing, but some of it's going to be set aside for wastewater, sewer, highways, etc. So there's an opportunity maybe we can apply, and Paul's working on all that now, we can actually apply for these grants to help us on the sewer side. And I don't think they've promulgated all the rules yet to where what will the match be. But there's some talk that some of these matches may be also just in-kind matches and not actual cash dollars. And so that's another avenue that may open up to us here in the next few weeks and months, and depending on what the final appropriations are from Washington. But it looks like it'd be at least $10 billion now for housing, transportation, etc. And obviously the impacted parishes the most are going to get most of that money, but they understand that the parishes that have been indirectly impacted like us also need some help to deal with some of the population growth and so forth and our infrastructure challenges. So those discussions are being held, and we will meet in the next few days with Louisiana Recovery Authority people to discuss some of these things and see what their rules are going to be as they put it together. And so we have to just all stay in tune as we see this evolve and develop. But that would be excellent if we can get some of the community block grants for some of these kind of projects coming down through those emergency appropriations. And I understand the president now is even willing to commit more money than what's been talked about for hurricane relief in our area. So that's a promising possibility.
Mr. Shea Snyder, you have a question?
Well, and just to elaborate on what Parish President was talking about infrastructure things that occurs as secondary for the hurricane, one of the things because of, and as we got back from NACO in Washington, it was a big report, as people are starting to realize now, because of coastal erosion, which the Louisiana delegation has been pushing a great deal, trying to educate the rest of the country for the last 9 or 10 years. Coastal erosion is causing tremendous problems. For example, on the West Bank, there is no place to put a well down and get drinking water any longer because of saltwater intrusion. It makes our water very salty. And so therefore you have to build infrastructure just to get water to people. And that wasn't always the case in the past, and so that adds a burden. And then when you talk about hurricane protection, they're starting to realize that Louisiana is a tidal basin, and that if Katrina would have come 30 or 40 miles to the west, that Ascension Parish would have been had tremendous problems with flooding because the anticipated surges from a hurricane like Katrina would have overtopped our current levees and gone through areas where we don't have levees. And so they're talking about the levees in New Orleans and these other parishes receiving tidal flows and overtopping, and that very thing can happen in Ascension Parish also. So we're very much, even though we're miles and miles inland, we're still very much a tidal basin, and we're still very much affected by the Gulf waters because they do come through Lake Pontchartrain, Lake Maurepas, and into the system there. And so we have to get on board and have to try to get as many people on board as possible with protection from the standpoint of levees. That's the as you've seen in New Orleans and everything. And I spent a lot of time with Wendell Curiel and Lafouche, who's been working on this a great deal of time, and they've improved their levees, and that was a big reason why they didn't get as much damage in Lafouche on these two hurricanes. It was the recent improvement upon their levee system. And so we need to start now to try to make sure our levee system is taken care of. And the other thing that comes up, and we're meeting right now for the River Region Caucus.
Mr. Shea, I'm sorry to interrupt, but we kind of got off the agenda item. We can finish this discussion on the next item.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
I got you.
Any other questions or comments from the parish president or from the members on agenda item 4? Okay, moving right along to agenda item 5, discussion of parish president's funding plan. And Fire District 1 asked to have some time to speak because part of the funding plan has to do with Fire District 1. So we'll call someone up if y'all would like to speak a little bit, and then we'll have some discussion.
We'll be glad to answer any questions the council members, parish president may have. And from what I understand, there were some questions as far as something that was mentioned in the funding plan towards fire hydrants and that type of stuff. But this, if I'm correct, and I would have to be pointed out if it's not, the monies that come to Fire District 1 is all, or Fire District 1, excuse me, Fire District 1, 2, and 3 all come off the same tax. So any monies that would be taken out of that would affect all 3 districts. Not sure how that would go or what the plan is to do that, but the funding source for all 3 districts is off the half-cent sales tax that the fire districts get 1/3 of that, and then it's split up percentage-wise to go to each district. So I'm not sure what the plan is and how it would affect the individual districts or anything like that. But if you got any questions from our end, what's there, I'm not really sure. I haven't heard the whole plan that the parish president has, and I'm not sure what funds he's talking about with that. But
Jim?
Yes, Mr. Valentine?
First of all, won't you introduce yourself, Benny?
I'm sorry. I'm Benny Johnson. I'm the chairman of Fire District 1.
Okay, thank you, Benny.
I'm sorry.
Maybe the parish president needs to restate what we're talking about because it's not here, parish president, and I think there was something in your address. I think you said something about taking part of the funding money for the
Well-
fire districts and doing something with it? Maybe I think that's what we're addressing right now?
Right.
Is that right,
Yes.
Chairman?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
I was
It's-
gonna ask the Parish
Well, it's not
President,
stipulated, so I won't, how about Parish President, you repeating exactly
Yeah.
what we're talking about?
What I propose, and it's the beginning place of discussion, Ben, because obviously to improve our fire service, we've got to improve our water availability.
Right.
So we all agree. And as we're negotiating this franchise agreement with Ascension Water, the proposal will depend on what happens there. Now, it looks like those negotiations are being improved significantly since that February 20th address, and since the council action on resolution for appropriation. And the next few days, hopefully, we'll see if we're really getting to something. Even if we create a utility district, we can still have a private company with a water franchise agreement if that's the best thing to do for our parish. I said if this doesn't work out, well, we can get significantly improved fire service, especially in those areas, the older subdivisions that don't have fire. For example, Seven Oaks, which is not in your district, I don't
Right.
think, but there's very few fire hydrants, and we got some very expensive properties in there.
Yes, sir.
And since the ordinance, I think in '98 it was, required developers to put new fire hydrants in the new communities, that's being dealt with going forward. But we got all these older subdivisions, and they're not that old, many of them, but it's before '98 that we have challenges, as well as our property that's not in subdivision, but along major highways where we don't have fire hydrants. And so if we can get that in a franchise agreement, that's what we ended up doing, well, then that would offset some of the things I talked about in the Parish President report. But what I said is if we take the present levels of funding, like for '05, what the three districts got from the 1/3 cent of the half cent, and we took the increased revenues, and we've got to look at the districts and see if that's sufficient for this year. But because taxes are increasing, but that your percent, I think last year Fire District 1 received what, 6% of the 1/3.
Well, out of the 1/3, if you look at the 1/3 as 100%, if I remember correctly, 10% goes to District 2.
And that was increased to 13, I think. We increased that 13.
Okay,
I think
and I'm not sure what
District
what
3 is getting
percentages.
22, I think.
Yeah,
so
at-
you guys
at
are
the point in
getting
time, so-
65.
Right.
So let's say that 65% stays the same, but because of the increase in taxes in that taxing account, we get $400,000 more than we got in '05. We look at taking that and using it to address the fire hydrant areas where Ascension Water has adequate water pressure already, okay? And let's take that money and try to leverage it with some federal grants or whatever to start putting fire hydrants in those areas. And,
Right.
and we got the same problem throughout Galveston. We got it all over. You know, all Fire District 1, all Fire District 3.
Right.
Now, Fire District 2 is probably a little better off, although I guess most of the rural areas really don't have fire hydrants within the utilities district. I don't think we have water pressure capability, do we, Kent?
They've got
Fire
some,
District 2?
I know that they got some hydrants down along
they-
McCall Palo Alto, but the system doesn't provide that much of a water flow. That's from years ago. I'm not sure what the latest
Now,
status on
It's
that
been
is.
updated now, Modes and the area of Phase 2 of the.
Yeah, that phase
some
has it, but like
areas-
Lemonville and the other area, A-Bend, we don't have
No, we still have
adequate
about
water.
half, about half.
But
is
now,
not
so
covered.
it's basically we have to go through and take the maps of Mr. Owens and his lines and say, okay, there's adequate water pressure here to support fire service. We don't have the hydrants. So what will it cost us to put hydrants in there to improve that fire rating for our citizens there? And so, and it was twofold. One, obviously, we have to address the problem, and number two, we got to begin the dialogue.
Right.
We got to do something. We got to quit just talking. We got to take action in this parish. It's truly a time for choosing, because you're going to see something in the parish president's report tomorrow night. It's going to show the rate of growth probably is a whole lot more than we thought it was going to be. Since, I mean, it's just accelerated significantly since the storms. And you're going to show you some things on when the population doubled last and when we think that next doubling will take place. And so obviously we have got to do some things. And so the purpose was to get all the fire districts together with council committees, administrations, community leaders, and let's talk about what's the best way. Anybody has a better plan? We got 2 ears, we want to listen to it. But we got to quit talking, and we got to start taking action on moving forward at meeting these challenges. And so we have a lot of areas in the parish where we have adequate adequate water pressure, Mr. Owens tells me, with Ascension Water. But it's a matter of who's going to pay to put construct those fire hydrants and tie into his private water lines.
Right.
And so the let's just say the franchise agreement comes to pass. The numbers that URS and the other consultants put together show that we will not near about get enough money from that franchise agreement to pay for that and pay Mr. Owens what he has proposed as an annual maintenance fee. We would lose money the first year. And it progressively gets worse as we go farther into it. And so that's not acceptable, so we got to look at some alternatives, and so that's what we're doing. So
one of the things that I've always had a concern with is this maintenance fee that's been proposed, and I'm not sure what Baton Rouge is paying. From what I understand, it's considerable less of what he's proposing over here.
we're trying right now, if you'll see this, we're asking for a copy of that, because so far we have, to our knowledge, we have not been given that, and it should be a public record.
Because back, I can remember several years back when I was on the fire board previously, a fire department proposed to tie in some fire hydrants on their system, and he wanted it $300 a year, and I went against it. The fire hydrants are, and I don't want this to be taken wrong, they're a necessary evil. I mean, it's kind of one of those things that you put 1,000 hydrants out there, depending on the fire calls you have, you may use one or two of them a year. But that same 1,000 hydrants is going to cost you $300,000 a year right off the top to cut him a check for a maintenance fee, which he's realistically not going to do very much to earn. And I'm not sure what he's telling, but
double dipping too, to where he's going to charge his water client some money to recoup that. Plus, the PSC is going to let him recapture his capitalization cost. So that's why we're trying to make sure we got all the documents and agreements he has in other areas, so that we can negotiate the very best deal for us.
I'm trying to remember now, but I think they're like $1 a hydrant per year. But I don't quote me on that.
If you have a copy of that, would you please get it to us?
That was something I was told years ago. But what I tried years ago to talk about, and I don't know what the legalities of it are, if it's possible, but could an ordinance be passed to say the areas are zoned either commercial or residential, and you run a water line, you put a hydrant in a commercial area every 600 feet, if you put it in residential every 1,000 feet, and those hydrants should be required to flow X amount of GPM and X amount of pressure. I personally, as a fire chief or as a firefighter, I don't care how you get me that. Just get it. It's your responsibility if it's within an ordinance and you can pass that ordinance requiring that.
Sample ordinance that would meet your needs so we can start debating it.
Because, I mean, a lot of that stuff, and that's one of the reasons we had some issues back years ago when that ordinance was passed on the current fire hydrant ordinance.
That's just in subdivision.
Right.
Over, I think, 20 acres.
They were, I'm not sure, I don't think it has any restrictions on the acreage. It was basically every house within that subdivision had to be within so many feet of a hydrant.
400 feet.
And you had to put one at the entrance. But Public Works, for a while, stopped forcing them to do that because they didn't have the service. And the problem that you have as a taxpayer is that sooner or later somebody's got to go in there and pay to put those hydrants down. Whereas the developer should have done it and passed the cost on to the people that were buying houses in those subdivisions. And you can mark those hydrants to where, you know, they're not in service because they don't have the fire flow to cover it. But as they go through and either update or repair systems, it seems to me, and again, I'm not an attorney, but can you pass some type of an ordinance that would require them to upgrade and put those systems in place without it costing that $300,000 a pop for 1,000 hydrants just right off the top? Because he's going to be making money off the users, and he may be able to charge a certain amount off the individual homeowners to kind of recoup that. But I don't see where the maintenance is going to be coming in, because I mean, you can look at although the number of fire calls that we're running has significantly increased in the last 15 to 20 years. I mean, in 23 years ago when I got involved with it, at 7th District we ran 30 to 35 calls a year. Well, I mean, they're running 80-something fire calls. Well, out of those 80-something calls, 5 or 6 are actually working fires. And whether or not, if they're in that vicinity, okay, so out of, say, several hundred hydrants that you could put within 7th District covers area, that's 5 hydrants that year that you're going to use. But yet, those other several hundred, you still got to pay that $300 service fee towards it. And
that's one of the biggest reasons any franchise agreement has not been agreed upon, because of those kind of issues. And
financially for us, I mean, one of the things that we look at over the years is that the original tax that Fire District, with the beginning Fire District 2 had, which was part of a millage that we were getting, initially established about $200,000 in income for the departments that were covered by that, which I think there were 9 of them at that time, Gene. And over the 20-year lifespan of that tax, or 22-year lifespan of that tax, it doubled to about $400,000. But what people are failing to see within that is, even though it's all volunteers and nobody's getting paid to do this, in 1978 they bought a bunch of trucks, engines for the fire service at $35,000 a pop. Well, back in 1992, 93, I think it was, we were paying $150,000 for the same truck. So even though the income had doubled within that time frame, the expenses have more than tripled. So, and that's part of the question that we have with this, is though even though the tax income is coming in, there's a lot of expansion that we're looking at of having to do as far as buying property and building new stations because of the volumes of calls that we're getting, plus with the rating. As people move in, your rating requirements are going up, not to mention the fact that you're taxing your system as it stands. So we're looking at purchasing more property and having to build more stations just within District 1, and I'm sure the other districts are encountering the same problems. And so the question that we have is, somebody's got to pay for the hydrants, and we understand that. But with the increase in income of what's coming in, I won't say the money is dedicated or allocated already, but you know, there's things that are out there that we're identifying as needs that, you know, we don't know, we don't have a price tag on exactly what that's going to cost us. But we're trying to identify those needs, and we're working up a 1, 3, 5, and 10-year plans to bring to the council to show them that, as well as looking at some paid firemen and what we're going to have to do to fund that. There's a lot of things that we as District 1 are working on that when that comment was made, I know a lot of people were asking me about it. You know, hey man, what, you know, we don't have the money we need now. How are we going to, and you know, this money's going to come from. So we've got to have some type of a dialogue to work that issue. But again, there's a lot of infrastructure and a lot of needs that we have that's going to cost us a lot more money. Presently, we have a surplus fund that's there for projects that were either not completed within that budgetary time frame or were rolled over, but we're also looking at it as an individual department saving some money up to when they have to replace a truck, say in 07 or 08, that they're saving their money now to be able to afford that truck, because we basically do a cash business. When we buy that truck, we cut a check for cash for that truck. We're not leasing it or paying a note on it, which saves us a good bit of money. And same thing with everything, that capital outlay expense that we do. That's basically how we've been constructing our business and how we've been doing it, which we find as a benefit to us. So again, with the hydrant situation, it's something we realize it counts for 1/3 of the rating, and it's a necessary evil for us to have them, because that's what, next to paid firemen, that's going to be our next big issue as to what we're going to be able to do to not only maintain but also to lower our rating to help the citizens out for less money on their insurance. But you know, I'm not sure if we can, you know, we can get together and look at where that money's coming from, or how much we would be looking at over a period of time.
I would suggest that, and I've asked Mr. Howard, who's like our acting parish fire administrator, to get with the 3 fire district chairmen, and you guys have these dialogue on your master plans for each district, and 3, 4, 5-year plans, whatever you have. You probably need to look out 15, 20 years, and we'll get you these demographic numbers now and population trends that I just got on my desk. I haven't even had a chance to read it this afternoon, on when we doubled our population, when that happened, and when we anticipate that happening again. And going from 45 to 90, and now probably 100, and then when we think that 90 is going to double to 180, it's been shortened significantly from the last time. And so this is going to impact our ability to provide quality services, to economic development, to bring in new business, fire rating, fire services, all part of that equation. So if you guys want to get the 3 chairmen, get together with Ed, and you guys start going through all your books and numbers and putting together a true master plan, that's what needs to happen, and we need to do it quickly. Because our rate of growth has really accelerated, and it looks like it's going to be even more so.
And like I said, we're in the process of that plan for at least District 1, and then getting together with the rest of the districts and Mr. Howard and going over that wouldn't be a problem.
And you guys, last time I met with you a few weeks ago, we talked about your idea of going forward with a tax within the district similar to what Fire District 3 did last year. So you got to look at those revenue projection expenses and this whole thing together.
Right.
You know, globally, and not just pieces of it, what are you talking about?
And that's what we're trying to put together the numbers now before we even come to the council with it. As far as that goes, is what are we projecting? Where do we want to be at in the lifetime of that tax, and what do we project that to cost us to figure out how much we're going to need to cover those costs? And whether we go basically the same route as what District 3 did and kind of scale back what our plans are, or whether we go beyond that to what we feel our needs are going to be in 15 or 20 years as far as personnel and that type of issue. It's kind of hard to put those numbers together, but we're working and trying to do that. We can estimate, for example, this year we estimated replacing an engine at $225,000. It actually it cost us $295 to replace that truck. So I mean that's money.
You guys need to sit down. May I suggest sit down with the finance office, Mr. Howard, and these are the kind of discussions you need to have on all of this. So when you have a plan together, give to the administration and council, we can see a true picture of what we're looking at.
That will be done. I mean, we're looking at the plan, and from what talking to the other board members, we are looking at probably from the 5 to 10 year span, not being able to do some rough projections on that, but anything that we have planned to replace or anything that's going to cost a significant amount of money, capital outlay, we will have a fairly good estimate on what those dollar figures are going to be for the next 3 to 5 years, and that, like we were talking about, that's going to be a living document for us that we're going to sit down and review that once a year and update it and present that to the council and administration as far as what's the updated and latest thing on that.
There's two parts of my speech that really pertain to fire service. One is this issue of water availability and how we pay for fire hydrants and so forth. Second part was encouraging consolidation of Fire District 1, similar to what 2 and 3 have now. And I know you guys, as we talked, you're working on that. And so that will help us expedite this whole process so you're truly looking at the fire district as a whole. Now, I know you got some issues with community, fire departments, all you got to work through, but your district's going to grow just like, Fire District 3's experienced most of the growth in the last few years, but it's spreading across that part of the parish. And it's got to be, we can't do business the way we used to do business in parish government because the parish has changed, and the same thing is true with fire service and every other government service. We've got to be able to make adjustments as circumstances warrant it. So, administration will work with you any way we need to on this whole issue.
Yeah. Mr. Johnson, if you
Yes,
could try to rally your troops as quickly as possible. We'll ask Ms. Liz to try to contact the other fire districts. Please express the urgency to get this matter done. Council Chairman Salvo give us a pretty aggressive initiative to try to get this done in 60 days and bring it to the council for Parish President to move forward with his initiative. And also, Mr. President, if you could ask Mr. Howard and express the urgency here to give these 3 groups so we can try to get this stuff done. This committee wants to try to accomplish that in 60 days. It's about 50 now.
For District 1, I'm sure we've already got a lot of information together. We can have not only the projected plan plus a business plan we're putting together for you. Hopefully by the end of the month, we'll have that and be able to give you a copy of it prior to the next meeting, council meeting, or any.
Please work with Mr. Howard on that also, so the administration will have a full understanding. We'll ask the other 2 districts to do the same.
That'd be fine.
Members, any questions of the parish president or Mr. Johnson? Any comments?
I just had a comment. Benny, I want to thank you and all the volunteers for all the work you do. And I know that you put your heart and soul into the budget, into providing the needs that this parish has. And I just want to thank y'all again because we haven't gotten to the paid system yet, but y'all are working there. And you do the best you can with our money, and we appreciate it. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Any other questions? Mr. Johnson, I do have one quick one. Y'all talked about the ballot initiative that y'all are working on.
Yes, sir.
Did y'all have any plans for any fire hydrants in that particular plan, or not really?
Not with that particular plan. Basically, what we're looking at with that is trying to figure out a plan for manpower and using those funds towards strictly that. And it's something we just got a committee working on at this time. We're going to be going to the fire chiefs as well as the fire board to get some ideas from them as far as what our plan is going to entail. But we're trying to project out with that plan, like I said, 20 years down the road, what we think our needs might be. And by no stretch of the imagination are we going for the optimum. For an example, property insurance specifies that you have 5 paid people on an engine to get maximum points for that engine, 3 paid people on a service truck or a ladder truck. We're not even looking at doing that. I mean, we're looking at probably 3 people on an engine, and plus we'll still probably be running some tankers and that kind of stuff, so we'll have some extra people in there. But when you run those apparatus to a structure fire, the more apparatus you run, the more people you're required to have. So our goal is to in 15 to 20 years have some type of combination of several paid people 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, along with a complement of volunteers to kind of beef up what you have to kind of save some money for the citizens and that type of deal. It won't get you to a Class 1 fire rating, but it will get you to the point of where hopefully we can get to a Class 2 or a Class 3 with that. It just kind of depends on a lot of other systems. The water system is going to be one of them. But where, and Gene and Wayne can correct me if I'm wrong on this, I think we do fairly well with the water system with the shuttle runs that we're doing now. It's not as optimum as what it could be with, if you had hydrants everywhere to where everything was covered within the requirements of the hydrants as well as the fire flows that are required for your larger structures. But our biggest hit comes in training. Or one of our biggest hits comes in training, because the amount of training that the guys are required to go through on an annual basis, it's tough to get those volunteers who have full-time jobs plus families and everything else out there to do the training that would be required to get the maximum amount of points through property insurance. And it's a tough battle, and it's not one that we're going to win. But when you start putting paid people on the books, that just magnifies the rating as far as the points that you get towards the rating, and it helps you lower your insurance rating. So that's basically the goal with what we're looking at, and trying to be able to compete with the local departments that are in the surrounding areas financially as far as paid people and what they're paying them, so we can get a quality person in those jobs and to field and work for the parish as far as fire protection is concerned, is what our goals are with that. And if we need to expand them, or once we present it to you folks as what our plans are, it's going to be a working plan that, if we got any comments or anything we need to go back and change or look at, because by far what we're looking at in the comments we're going to get, I'm sure there's going to be some things that we're going to overlook or not realize that we have to, go a certain route to get the information, or need a certain amount of information for either the ordinance or going out for that millage or tax, whatever it may be. Because we haven't even settled on what type of funding mechanism we want to look at. We're going to look at all of them and see what's the least amount of impact on the citizens, that we can get the most bang for our buck to provide those services to the people.
Anything else? President?
And if you would, Benny and Gene and Wayne, try to get everybody. The speech is only 37 minutes long. It's on the website.
Okay.
Go to Ascension.net or whatever, and you can watch the whole thing. And that way, if anybody has questions from the fire service, I can just pick up the phone and call.
Okay.
So and I think the important thing is to get your 3 fire districts together with Mr. Howard, and we get with the administration committee, and we can, look at the whole thing, what we need to do with it.
Yes, sir.
We just have to have a true master plan for our whole parish now, from drainage to roads to fire service to recreation.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr.
Thank you,
Johnson.
Thank you.
Mr. Shea Snyder?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to offer for a 2/3 vote to try to put on the agenda to attempt a task order for engineering services for a scope of work to help us make a decision on what we're going to do with the jail and wastewater in the area, in the jail and in the Lemonville area.
I have a motion for 2/3 agenda amendment by Mr. Shea Snyder. Do we have a second?
Second.
Any objection? Motion passes. We'll amend the agenda and take it up now. Mr. Armour from CDM, I think you have the exhibit to an agreement. I ask that you please read it, since the members hadn't seen it, and we can discuss it if anybody has any information.
Sure.
Mr. President, I'm not sure if you want to listen to this or not. It may be an amendment to a STAG grant. We're asking CDM to look at He's given us a specific scope to study 3 different options. Since we had the CDBG grant for the $600,000 to run the sewer lines from Lemonville, possibly tying into the jail, going directly to Donaldsonville or whatever, there's been some preliminary discussion with the EPA to possibly amend the STAG grant to include Lemonville. And that's what we're going to discuss if you'd like to listen to that.
I'll get it. You
Okay.
guys discuss it. And I'll be happy to look at it. I think it's part of, I met with Falcon Hull and Sean and them this week, so they gave me an update on something.
Okay.
And I think it's the same thing. I can't-
Yes.
Now, you
And-
say we don't have the Lemonville CDB, that's one
No.
of the, we got 2 applications in.
Two
We'll find out
applications,
about a
but-
year, which one's approved.
Yeah.
Now, but I think we do have a chance now, through some of this other money, maybe also to
Right.
look at applying through this. Now, and Paul just told me on March 28th, we're going to have a meeting where they're going to talk about the rule promulgation on this, so we'll know more once they do that. Who's eligible for what, besides just emergency housing demands. So, thank you, Councilman
Yes.
Chairman.
Let me just lead up to what he's going to say here, why he's going to say it. And I just want to preface what Amar's going to say, how we got to this point. We had a number of alternatives as to what we're going to do in this area. The very good possibility of getting a CDBG grant, and we'd already had a STAG grant for the jail, and we have a substantial amount of sewer in that area, and so we wanted to absolutely make the best decision as to how to go about combining these monies with also the possibility of receiving more core monies. They said to enhance this because of the specifics of this area, and so that's why we had asked Amr to give us some choices, and then we want to get things a little more detailed than that.
Sure. My name is Amr Tufel with CDM. What we've come up with is a draft scope of work for the parish and the administration to consider. This is just a first cut at it. I don't think there's much to it, but if there's any comment from either the board members or the administration, I'd be happy to work those out with y'all. But basically, after kind of getting into it, we sort of agree, I think, that there are 3 broad alternatives to treating the flows from Lemonville and the Ascension Parish Jail. And they generally consist of 1, expanding the existing jail facility to accommodate not only its expansion, but the flows from Lemonville once Lemonville is sewered by these by one of the grants that Councilman Scheck-Snyder mentioned. The second alternative is combining flows from Lemonville once it's sewered and the expanded the additional flows from an expanded jail to a new regional plant in the West Bank of the parish. And the third would be to jointly, I guess with the jail, serve Lemonville through Donaldsonville. I can go into detail about these alternatives if you like, but those are broadly the 3.
I would, because some of the members aren't privy to the meetings we had during the week and things, and
Sure.
I'd like them to really know what they're looking at here.
Absolutely. I'll just kind of read along here. We would develop alternatives for the treatment of wastewater collected from the Lemonville area. It is anticipated that once served by a wastewater collection system, the Lemonville area will generate an average daily flow of 28,500 gallons per day. The developed alternative shall consider the use of existing facilities at either the Ascension Parish Jail or the Donaldsonville wastewater treatment plant to treat this additional anticipated wastewater flow. The alternative shall also consider the future wastewater generation of 47,260 gallons per day from the Ascension Parish Jail that will result from the planned expansion of the jail. The analysis of each alternative shall detail the needs and the estimated 20-year net present cost for the implementation and associated operation and maintenance costs. The 3 alternatives that will be reviewed in the preliminary engineering report are: Alternative 1, treatment at an expanded Ascension Parish Jail plant. The development of this alternative shall include the transport of wastewater collected from the Lemonville area to the existing wastewater treatment plant at the Ascension Parish Jail. The analysis of this alternative shall include the needs for the new force main, modifications, and expansion at the Ascension Parish Jail wastewater treatment plant to accommodate the flow from Lemonville, and all associated additional operation and maintenance costs. Alternative 2, co-treatment with Ascension Parish Jail wastewater at a new regional plant. The development of this alternative shall include the transport of wastewater collected from the Lemonville area to the existing wastewater treatment plant at the Ascension Parish Jail. The existing and anticipated future sewage flow from the Ascension Parish Jail will be combined with the flow from Lemonville and pumped to a new regional plant site. The new regional plant will be sized for the flow from Lemonville and the Ascension Parish Jail with the capacity for future expansion to accommodate flow from the A Bend and St. Jude areas and from the proposed development in the Point Homas area. The Ascension Parish Jail wastewater plant would be abandoned upon completion of the regional plant. The analysis of this alternative shall include needs for the development of the new regional facility, the new force main, modifications at the Ascension Parish Jail, and all associated operation and maintenance costs. Alternative 3, co-treatment with Ascension Parish Jail wastewater at the Donaldsonville wastewater treatment plant. The development of this alternative shall include the transport of wastewater collected from the Lemonville area to the existing wastewater plant at the Ascension Parish Jail. The existing and future sewage flow from the Ascension Parish Jail will be combined with flow from Lemonville and pumped to the existing Donaldsonville plant via new force main and utilizing the existing jail pump station if feasible and cost effective. The Ascension Parish Jail wastewater treatment plant would be abandoned upon completion of the new force main to Donaldsonville treatment plant. The analysis of this alternative shall include the needs for new force mains, pumping capacity, modifications at the Ascension Parish Jail, and all associated operation and maintenance costs. That kind of summarizes what it is that we would review from a net present worth perspective, costs of capital improvements, plus costs of operation and maintenance. Excuse me, and any other considerations such as anticipated roadblocks to the implementation of either one of these alternatives, be it land acquisition, environmental, et cetera, that we can anticipate at this stage of the game. Again, the purpose, hopefully the purpose of this is to give the parish a better picture as to what will happen at Lemonville once the funds are available to sewer that area, and to kind of make the best use of that investment.
Any members have any questions, comments? Any more discussion needed? Shake nine, any questions?
No.
What's the wishes of the members?
I move that we recommend to the council to accept this as a task order to move forward with the recommended plan.
Motion by Mr. Shake Snyder,
Second.
second by Mr. Valentine. Any further discussion? Any opposition? Motion passes. Number 6,
Move to adjourn.
Second.
adjourn.
Thank you, Mr.